Well, thank you very much. Last week, Jim began our series on the Gospel of St. John, a wonderful gospel, one of the four in the New Testament, as you know. And it begins with the words, "In the beginning was the Word," and the word for word is logos in the Greek, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. So that is the declaration right at the start of the Gospel. So today I'm going to speak on verses 14 to 28. And we're going to start verse 14 and talk about Jesus. And then the text moves on to a discussion with John the Baptist. And so there's a section where we talk about John the Baptist, and then right at the end, we'll talk about Jesus again. So we're going to begin with verse 14, John 1:14. And we read these words, I read them to you. "The Word became flesh and made his dwelling among us. We've seen his glory, the glory of the one and only, who came from the Father, full of grace and truth." So let's look at that verse. The Word became flesh. The Word. Now, we've already heard about the Word in the very first verse of the Gospel. I read it to you. The Word was with God, and the Word was God. And now we read, the Word became flesh. That's those four. The Word became flesh. And that's what we are. We're flesh. This stuff. We're all made of flesh. We're all flesh and bones, flesh and blood, muscle and kidneys and goodness knows what. That's what we are. We are creatures of flesh and blood. We are human beings. Of course we are. And he became flesh. He became one of us. The Gospels of Luke and Matthew and Luke, they speak about the birth of Jesus as a baby, coming into the world. They speak about his entry into the human condition, one of us. So the Word was with God, and the Word became flesh. He became one of us. God entered our condition, our situation. He entered what it is to be a human being. God is not a million miles away in some distant place, but he became flesh. He came to be with us, to identify with us, to suffer with us, to rejoice with us, to speak with us. He became flesh. And this is the wonder of what is called the incarnation. John's Gospel doesn't have any account of the birth of Jesus. The only accounts of the birth of Jesus are in Matthew's Gospel and in Luke's Gospel. But in Mark and in John, there is no reference to the birth of Jesus. Instead, we have this momentous statement, the Word became flesh. And I want us just to let that sink in. He became one of us. He knows what it's like. He knows what it's like to get up in the morning and go to work. He knows what it's like to be hungry. He knows what it's like to be tired. He knows what it's like to need a night's sleep. He knows what it's like to have friends. He knows what it's like to go to a wedding feast. He knows what it's like to enter a big city like Jerusalem. He knows what these things are like because the Word became flesh. He came to be with the human beings. And then it says, he made his dwelling among us. That word, made his dwelling, there's a Greek word called skinoo. He pitched his tent. And he tabernacled. And that made his dwelling. It's actually the figure that is behind that verb is the figure of pitching the tent of the tabernacle in the wilderness when the Israelites were traveling through the wilderness away from Egypt. They hadn't reached the promised land. They were in desert places, and they built a tent. They constructed a tent, they made a tent, and that tent became the place where the presence of God came. If you read the book of Exodus, you'll find right at the end, Exodus chapter 40, the glory of God fills the tabernacle. So he dwelt among us. He tabernacled among us. It's like we're traveling through this life. We're on a journey. We're going through, sometimes we feel we're going through a desert. And he pitched his tent among us and became among us. He dwelt among us, and we have seen his glory. We have seen his glory. The theme of an eyewitness runs through the Gospel of John. We have done this. This is not some metaphysical, logical proposition, but this is from our experience. We have seen his glory. I want to emphasize the importance of the personal testimony. You know, you have this in a court of law. If you want to establish things, witnesses are brought. They are questioned by the barrister, by the judge. And the witnesses are brought up, and they stand in the witness box. They say they'll tell the truth. They are spoken to. And that's how we established what happens. That's a process that goes back thousands of years to establish what happened with witnesses. And here he says, we have seen. And I just want to underline that to you, the testimony of the gospel writer. We have seen his glory. And when you think of his glory, you think, did he come with a shining light? Did he come with majestic chariots? Did he come clothed in purple like a Roman emperor? Did he come triumphant through the streets with a guard of honor? Did he come with trumpets blowing? No, he didn't. He came humbly. He came almost unknown into this world. Working as a carpenter, he came to us humbly, born in a stable, entering not the palace of Herod, but entering in a humble way. Christ came to us and dwelt among us. A subject people in the Roman Empire, a people who were under the Roman yoke, with soldiers in the streets, tax to pay to Caesar. He came among those people. He came among those people. He came to us to dwell, to live, to be with us. And we beheld his glory. What does John mean? Well, we beheld his glory, the glory of the one and only. He is the only begotten Son. And this is the first time the word Father is used in the gospel. He came from the Father. He came from the Father. God is the Father. He came not from an abstract concept of deity, but he came from the Father. This coming from the Father, and he comes full of grace and truth. Full of grace and truth. Does he come with the power of some kind of Roman conqueror, superhero? No, he comes full of grace. Full of grace. And you will see in the Gospel of John that he meets individuals in the gospel. We're going to go through the whole gospel. You're going to see that he meets Nicodemus, named man. He meets a woman by a well in Samaria. He meets a paralytic by the pool of Bethesda. He meets a man born blind. He meets Thomas after the resurrection. He meets Peter at the end of the gospel. Well, he meets him before, but he meets him at the end of the gospel. There are individual encounters with Christ. He meets individuals. He knows Lazarus by name and raises him from the dead. He knows his name. He's not just some unknown guy. He's a named individual. And I want to say to you that he knows us. He knows us as individuals. He knows you. He knows me. He knows us. That is the marvelous thing. We talk sometimes about the omniscience of God, the fact that God knows all things. Well, one of the things that he knows is about the hearts of people. He knows what's going on in your mind, your thoughts, your life. That's the transparency. He knows us, and he comes to us full of grace. He doesn't come condemning and shouting and stamping and indignant. He doesn't come affronted and enraged. He comes full of grace. He comes with grace to the man by the pool of Bethesda, and he's going to raise him up. To the woman at the well, he comes full of grace. And I want to say to you, though we should reverence and respect God, yet nevertheless he comes to us with grace. He comes to you. He comes to you and he comes to me graciously, not condemning us, not saying, you're not up to the mark, you're a disgrace, what have you done? He comes to us with grace. He comes to us to embrace us. He comes to us to bring us to himself. He comes to us in love. He comes to us because he cares about us. He comes to us full of grace and truth. And truth. And we're told that we live in a post-truth age. At least that's what I read online. I don't actually read too much online, but I'm told that we live in a post-truth era. People have given up on the idea of truth. Well, I can tell you that Jesus didn't give up on the idea of truth. Jesus did not give up. He came full of truth. He came to tell things as they were. He came to speak to the human condition. He came to speak about the glories of God. He came to speak to us in words of truth that resonate through the ages. He came to us as a God of truth. And he comes to you and to me full of grace and truth. Have you got a problem at work? Well, I suggest that you seek to approach it with grace and truth. Have you got a problem with your neighbor? I suggest you seek to solve it with grace and truth. Have you got a problem with someone in your life group? I suggest you seek to face it with grace and truth. Are you a school teacher and you've got a difficult kid in your class? I suggest grace and truth. Are you a social worker? Are you a doctor? Are you a probation worker? Do you look after kids? Grace and truth should characterize the church. We're people of grace. We're people of truth. One and the other. Not one at the expense of the other, but both together. Grace and truth. That is how Christ came. That is setting an example for us to live. Let us walk. Let us live in grace and truth. Let us live not suppressing the truth. Let us live prepared to testify to the truth, and let us be those who act graciously. Graciously. So, that's verse 14. Let's have a look next. John testifies concerning him. He cries out saying, "This was he of whom I said, He who comes after me has surpassed me because he was before me. From the fullness of his grace, we have all received one blessing after another. For the law was given through Moses. Grace and truth came by Jesus Christ. Well, just pause there for a moment. The law was given by Moses. Now we understand the law of Moses is a comprehensive legal system. It covers the way to live. It covers relationships with your neighbor. It covers your possessions, your ox, your ass, your field. It covers your relationship with God. It covers every aspect. It covers taxation, for goodness sake. It covers everything. The law is a comprehensive. I think there are 613 commandments in the Mosaic law. Huge system covering the whole of life, telling the people of Israel how they should live. They were under the law. A Jewish boy, and a Jewish girl, but a Jewish boy, at the age of about 12, he has what is called the bar mitzvah ceremony, the bar mitzvah. And that when he becomes bar mitzvah, the son of the law, he takes on the responsibility of observing the Mosaic law. That's what happened through the first 5 books of the Old Testament and the way in which Israel was intended to live. Setting an example to the nation, setting an example not to steal, not to kill, not to lie, not to bear false witness, to honor their parents. All these things are in the law. But we read, the law came through Moses, but grace and truth came through Jesus Christ. A new era has dawned. A new day has dawned. Grace and truth. We are not under the law. We're not under the Mosaic law. We do not have to offer a sacrifice for our sins. We're not under the law. We have been given grace and truth because they came through Jesus Christ. We have received one blessing after another. Grace and truth has come through Jesus Christ. And then it goes on, no one has ever seen God. Moses asked to see God. Can I see God? God said, no, you can't see me. If you see me, you'll die. Just see, as it were, the afterglow of the glory. There's a verse in one of the pastoral epistles saying that he dwells in unapproachable light. Dwells in light unapproachable. When you read in the book of Isaiah chapter 6 and the angels are worshipping, they're covering their faces because the glory of God is so incandescent, so marvelous, that they cover their faces. Friends, God is the God of glory, of wonder. And no one has seen God at any time. But, it says, the one and only who is at the Father's side has made him known. And again, the Greek word is actually the word we get the word exegesis from. Exegeted him. He has made him known. Do you want to know what God is like? Look at Jesus. You want to know what God is like? That God in glory, God and in look at Jesus. That shows you. He shows you what God is like. He has declared him. I want to know what God is like. What does God think about this? What does God think about that? What does God do? Look at Christ. He declares him. He discloses him, unveils. This is what God is like. He's like Jesus. He's like Christ. He cares for the weak and the poor and the outcast. He cares for you and for me, for individuals. He knows us by name. He feeds the hungry. He heals the sick. He speaks to authority and power. He is the one who we follow and whom we love. Now that the text changes and we move to John the Baptist. And this is the section we're going to move on to now. And I need to tell you a little bit about John the Baptist. John the Baptist was a man who came from the desert. If you read the other Gospels, he comes dressed in camel skin and wearing a leather belt. You might think of him as a kind of hippie character. You might think of him as someone he's living on a diet I wouldn't recommend, of locusts and wild honey. You won't put on weight if you're living on locusts and wild honey. He's come rough and raw from the desert. And he comes to Israel, and he comes to prepare Israel for the Christ. We sometimes overlook the nation-rocking nature of the ministry of John the Baptist. The whole of from Jerusalem, they stream out of the city down to the River Jordan. It's about 18 miles. They go out, the people go out from Judea. They go out to hear John the Baptist preach. There's a preacher out there by the River Jordan, and he's speaking to Israel. He's come to address the nation. And so they go down. People go down. They go down, they confess their sins, they're baptized in water. This is the baptism. He is preparing for the Christ. It's an astonishing ministry. We haven't seen a ministry like that in Britain. We haven't seen a ministry like that in other countries. Maybe the nearest we've had in Britain is someone like Wesley or Whitfield, but to shake the nation. When I was converted, Billy Graham came and preached in London. And he came, and I believe there were 100,000 people in Wembley Arena when he came and preached, the football stadium, the old one. He did speak to a nation. God raised him up. Well, John the Baptist did the same. And you know, John the Baptist, there were no miracles connected with his ministry. There was no healing connected with John the Baptist. He came and he spoke. And if you want to know what he spoke about, he told the soldiers to be content with their wages. And he told the tax collectors not to collect more tax than they were due. He told the Pharisees to bring forth fruits meet for repentance. He came to prepare the hearts of the people. Now, this stirs the nation. It stirs the religious leaders in Jerusalem. So they send a delegation down to the River Jordan. And so we read these words. I'll read it to you now. This was John's testimony when the Jews of Jerusalem sent priests and Levites to ask him who he was. He did not fail to confess, "I am not the Christ. I'm not the Christ." They asked him, "Then who are you? Are you Elijah, come from the desert in camel skin, wearing a leather belt, like Elijah from the brook Zarephath? Are you Elijah?" "No, I'm not." "Are you the prophet?" "No." Why do they say, "Are you Elijah?" Because if you read the very last verses of the Old Testament, the last verses of the book of Malachi, there's reference to the sending of Elijah to prepare for the coming of Christ, preparing Israel. He says, "No, I'm not Elijah." "Are you the prophet?" You say, "Well, who is the prophet?" Well, the prophet is referred to in Deuteronomy 18. Moses says that God will raise up a prophet like me from among your brethren. So the people of Israel were expecting, as it were, another Moses, a prophet. It's referred to, I think you'll find, in the speech of Stephen, when Stephen is arrested later on in the book of Acts. "Are you the prophet?" "No, I'm not." So they said, "Well, who are you? Give us an answer to take back to those who sent us. Who do you say? What do you say about yourself?" And he said, in the words of Isaiah the prophet, and he quotes Isaiah chapter 40, I am the voice of one calling in the desert. Make straight the way for the Lord. Isaiah 40. Who are you, John? Are you Elijah? No. Are you the prophet? No. Are you the Messiah? No. Who are you? I'm a voice. I'm a voice. There could hardly be a more self-effacing answer. I'm a voice. I am the voice of one calling in the desert. And I'm calling in the desert, make a pathway for the Lord. Let every valley be exalted and every mountain and hill made low. Make a straight path for God. Prepare the way of the Lord. I'm come to prepare the nation to meet with the Messiah. I've come to prepare the nation to straighten out the crooked places. I've come, and there are crooked places, and there were crooked places in those days, and there are crooked places today. I've come to straighten them out. I've come that every mountain shall be made low, and every valley shall be exalted. I've come to prepare the way of the Lord. And they said, well, that's who you are. So then the Pharisees said, well, if you're not Elijah, and if you're not the Christ, and if you're not the prophet, why are you baptizing people? Why are you baptizing people? We haven't had people being baptized. You've come to and you've got people being streamed out of the city, and they're being baptized. They're confessing their sins. They're being baptized. They're coming out of the water. Why are you baptizing people? And he doesn't really answer their question. He says, I baptize with water, John replied, but among you stands one you do not know. He is the one who comes after me, the thongs of whose sandals I am not worthy to untie. There comes one after me who is mightier than I. But this is it. There stands one among you you do not know. You don't know the Christ. Somewhere in the crowd is the Christ, and you don't know him. And I want to say to you, friends, Christ is nearer than you think. He's nearer. He's near. There stands one among you you don't know, but he's nearer than you think. And I want to say to you this morning, if you've come to this meeting and you've said, God is far away from me, I need God, I want to say to you, he's nearer than you think. He's nearer. There stands one among you. And I want to say to you, friends, that there's an opportunity here to commit your life to the one who came full of grace and truth. There's an opportunity here for you to commit your life to the Savior, to the one who is coming with grace and truth, who is the light of the world, and whose light has shone across the nations for centuries, and the darkness has not put it out. The propaganda of the Nazis, the propaganda of the wicked totalitarian states has not put out the light. I want to tell you that that light shines. The Christ is nearer than you think. And he comes and he's among you. And John says, he is greater than I. In fact, he says, I baptize with water, but he will baptize with the Spirit. And you can hear about that next week. He will baptize you with the Spirit. I baptize you with water, but there comes one after me who is mightier than I. So let me give you an opportunity to conclude. Bless you.